Variety is what keeps Helldivers special.
And we're running one of the best primaries to kill launchers. Oh, wow.
Oh.
You get him, Al. Good job.
Thank you.
But we keep seeing the same 5 guns dominate the rankings for Helldivers' most popular primary weapons, according to Helldive.live. Most of the weapons I'm going to show you are picked in less than 2% of games, and it's not because they're bad. A lot of people just don't know how to use them. My name is Commissar Kai, and today I'm going to show you Helldivers' most underrated primaries and how to get the most out of them. For some reason, the bot that does my transcripts keeps calling me Thomas Arai, but that's not my name. I wear the title of Commissar proudly because I love Warhammer. And apparently, Warhammer loves me back because today's video is sponsored by Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus. If you've ever even had a passing interest in getting into the Warhammer 40,000 universe, Tacticus is a great way to dip your toes into the series from the comfort of your superphone. With 20 different playable factions, there is plenty of room to explore the unique and fascinating design and stories that make the universe feel so special. Personally, I like my God Emperor favored tanks, walkers, and my fiercely loyal but easily expendable soldiers, meaning I get along famously well with the Astra Militarum. I've always been a sucker for strategy games, and Tacticus scratches that itch with its fast-paced tactical gameplay. I loved how many variables go into each combat, from controlling the high ground to using special abilities at just the right time. Baiting the enemy into ambushes and slaughtering the enemies of humanity gave me that big brain feeling I've been craving for so long. If you join now, you can grab yourself some of the most iconic champions of the Warhammer universe, like Marnius Calgar of the Ultramarines and Commander Farsight of the Tau Empire. In honor of Grotmus, Tacticus is hosting a special event where you get to fight alongside the leader of the revolution, the Red Gobbo, as you battle endless waves of stupid gits and boys. Be sure to use the code Commissar Kai before December 31st to get access to 10 Dreer shards and 50 energy to help you get started. Dive into the best strategy content I've ever played on a superphone with Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus today. Before we get into which weapons deserve field trips to the battlefield more often, I want to clarify a couple of things. I consider a weapon underrated when it has a pick rate that does not reflect its capabilities. Every gun has fans, but a couple of primaries are more underpowered rather than underrated. So to earn a spot on this list, a gun needs to have a definitive niche, whether that's a particular effectiveness against a certain faction or enabling a playstyle. I'm not covering every weapon I think is underrated, so if you do want a part 2, let me know in the comments. I also have 2 special guests joining us today to talk about their favorite underappreciated gems. Finally, I'm breaking these up into 2 categories, so no matter what your favorite flavor of crayon happens to be, there will be something for you to try on this list. Starting out, we have our first category, I suck at aiming, or I don't feel like aiming today.
Man, you got in my head.
For these weapons, marksmanship is a mere suggestion rather than a requirement. So those of you that scored an unqualified on your annual rifle qualification can still bring death and destruction to our enemies while using these tools of managed democracy. Our first gun embodies this attitude in its name, the Breaker Spray and Pray.
Yeah, we're living with BS&P.
The BS&P has a pitiful pick rate against its best factions, sitting at just 0.6% against squids, and 1.4% against the bugs. This gun used to be trash, so I do kinda understand. It fires birdshot shells, which pack more of a strongly worded suggestion to screw off compared to Buckshot's invitation to the grave. But it's gotten some substantial buffs over the past year that have turned it from democracy's worst joke into a proper shredder of tyranny. It's snappy and responsive with 50 ergonomics, even with the drum mag attached, has the highest pellet count of any shotgun at 16, and comes standard with that drum magazine holding 26 shells. But the reason the Spray and Pray can live up to its name is the ridiculous amount of spare ammo that it comes with. This beauty comes with 8 spare magazines standard, or frickin' 10 of them when you take Siege Ready. This means you have between 234 to 286 shells to Dick Cheney our enemies with, depending on your armor set of choice. That is a lot of lead to be thrown down range, but because it's a light pin weapon and the spread of the pellets is pretty drastic without a full choke, it struggles to take down targets at any range beyond about 20 meters, meaning it's not the best for bots with all their medium armor and focused on ranged combat. That said, it can do a lot of good work against the bugs, but it absolutely wrecks the squid since its lower damage and light pin do not matter at all when you can just keep firing into the wall of meat. They will run out of bodies before you run out of bullets. It's just so damn fun to clear the streets shoulder to shoulder with another Helldiver running this weapon. Hell, when it comes to purging the voter rolls, it sits right up there with the freaking maxi gun in terms of effectiveness. It can even put down a flesh mob in a single magazine if you land enough shots on those weak points. The only targets on this front that give it trouble are stingrays, harvesters, and elevated overseers. Elevated overseers can be particularly annoying when running this weapon because a lot of the time they will float away from you while you're firing it, meaning the pellet spread and drag of the weapon cause it to not swat the mosquitoes fast enough. If they do get close to you though, it absolutely shreds them. But this is an easy enough weak point to cover when paired with something like the AMR, laser cannon, or HMG. Slap the bullet dog on your back and you can easily bag 1,000 kill games without really trying. This weapon is the best primary answer to greens that we have. So if you're expecting to eat a lot of lime flavored crayons, give it a try. It's a ton of fun. Our next I suck at aiming primary is another criminally underrated shotgun, on the bug front anyway, the Halt. For all you permitless Helldivers saying I was wrong about the M90A, I have to wonder, where you at when it comes to representing the Halt? Why in the name of Eagle One's bathwater does this thing only have a 0.8% pick rate against its best faction, the bugs? Hell, that's lower than the M90A, and it has medium pin. The Halt is one of 3 medium pin shotguns that we have access to, since it fires armor-piercing flechette rounds. It can carry 8 of these rounds in its internal magazine, it has a solid 385 damage per shell, and it has very snappy ergonomics at 65. But it also has access to stun rounds, which do basically no damage. I actually killed something with the stun rounds, let's go. But can apply the stun effect to most enemies. Now, I'm mostly kidding, the Halt does have some drawbacks which contribute to its lower pick rate, namely the lack of a full choke, which makes it pretty bad at longer ranges. It also doesn't have the stagger force on its flechette rounds like the M90A does. But there is a change that happened recently which makes this weapon much better. You can now bind swapping its ammo type to a single hotkey, making it much easier to go from stunning to doming. I put these on my numpad to make it easy to keep track of which settings I'm changing, but if you find a comfortable keybind, this is actually a pretty big deal. Because Command, in all their infinite wisdom, fixed status effects, the stun rounds also don't taser as hard as they used to. But for all of these downsides, the Halt can still fill an important role in loadouts. It is basically the primary version of the gas dog. The stun rounds are great and can buy you space and clog up choke points while you use your other weapons to clear the field. One of my favorite pairings to use with it is the new hot dog, since stunning enemies seems to make it easier for the dog to set the ground on fire, making spreading our burning passion for managed democracy just a little bit easier. It's not great against the bots because of its lack of stagger, and its medium pin flechettes are mostly wasted against the squids, but against the bugs, the Halt can relive its former glories. That medium pin and solid damage mean it can hit important breakpoints like 1-tapping warriors, 2-tapping alpha commanders, and it's especially effective against biospheres since the stun rounds are hard to miss on them, and 2 shots to the head or 1 in their mouth will put them down for good. It's also really good at stunning chargers, making them easy pickings for your team. It's also notably good against the predator strain, since it can make whole groups of stalkers pause long enough to reconsider their views on fascism. This weapon is not a powerhouse when it comes to raw killing power, but it is a great choice if you plan on bringing a support weapon that will keep the field clear. Seems like a lot of y'all just don't vibe with shotguns, because the Cookout should not have a pick rate under 0.5% for how incredibly strong this weapon is. I know, it just got nerfed. It's harder to set enemies on fire, and some enemies are now more durable. But the damage, stagger, and flame effect on the Cookout make it one of the most versatile primary weapons we have. Its damage is on the lower side for a shotgun at just 320, but the flame effect drastically increases its damage, especially since fire in Helldivers is AP 4, so it can cook even light vehicles. Now some of y'all are using it against the bugs, and for good reason. It can wipe out packs of hunters in a hurry, and anything smaller than a charger will easily succumb to its loving embrace after a couple of hits. But the Cookout is equally strong against the other 2 factions, and it's hardly ever chosen with a less than 1% pick rate. On bots, that stagger force can save your life, and the flame effect means aiming is completely optional. The only enemies from this faction that it really struggles with, aside from reds, are rocket striders. But this is an easily solvable problem by just bringing something like the Talon or the Senator. The rest of your kit can be geared towards dealing with armor or busting up the really big crowds. On squids, it just sets everything from voteless to flesh mobs on fire. Even elevated overseers can't stand up to more than a couple of shots. Bring a sword for when the crowd start asking for your autograph, and a support weapon for the heavy stuff, and you have a really solid setup that doesn't really have any weaknesses. The next shotgun y'all really should be using more is the Breaker, our original overpowered weapon. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Seems like either Helldivers forgot about this beast, or think it got power crept out of the game since it's only picked on 3.5% of dives against its best faction, the Bugs. But it is a very solid alternative to the Breaker Spray and Pray if you prefer more buck in your shot. It's also very easy to use since you can just mag dump whatever has you feeling threatened like you're in Super Florida. Its base form isn't the most impressive, but when you slap on a drum mag and a full choke, the gun really starts to sing. It's especially effective on the bug front when paired with something like the MG43 or the Maxi gun, since it will clear out any fast bugs that manage to catch up with you, while your workhorse of a support weapon does most of the heavy lifting. My fellow propaganda commander, Background Gaming, came up with a very effective breaker loadout against the bugs that uses the MG43, supply pack, and a bunch of big booms. Check him out and give his setup a try. It's really strong. This next one surprised me the most when researching for this video. This weapon is easily one of the best guns in the entire game against all factions, but it is only picked on less than 3% of dives. The Purifier. I guess the veteran Helldivers are tired of using it, and the new boots never learned about it. This is a plasma weapon that uses a charge mechanic to burn our enemies from the face of the galaxy. When you tap fire the squirt gun of freedom, it does okay damage at 175 per shot, letting you quickly take out anyone trying to steal your shoes, but when you charge it up, it does a massive 500 damage, with 300 of that being explosive damage and the rest being ballistic damage. This means it can clear crowds easily while also killing single targets in just 1 to 2 hits. Because it has ballistic damage, unlike my PP, it can also headshot targets, meaning whether you're good at aiming or can't hit the broadside of a super destroyer, this weapon will still serve you well. It's even good at taking out heavy enemies, especially chargers and flesh mobs. If we're talking pound for pound killing power, this is probably the best gun in the game. It just lacks the utility of more popular options like the Eruptor or the easy use of something like the Coyote. You do need to find the time to charge up your shots, and you do have to be careful to not liberate yourself. But if you can master those two skills, then this weapon is an absolute powerhouse in almost any loadout and against any faction. Pair it with either strong AT options like the recoilless rifle, or horde clear monsters like the Maxi gun. This gun is all you need for the blues. So build around that idea and you'll have a lot of fun. Speaking of plasma weapons, we once again have to talk about my PP. I am shocked and appalled that this treasure of a weapon is only picked on less than 1% of dives. It's amazing against all 3 factions with its ability to clear crowds while staggering everything that looks upon its majesty. And it is one of the safest choices for primary weapons, since it will handle all your green and blue needs regardless of which faction you're fighting. Plus, if you suck at aiming, the Plasma Punisher rewards you with heaps of dopamine by just shooting vaguely in the direction of whatever you want liberated. It's also undoubtedly the best gun in the game for taking on the rapid acquisition missions. On these dives, there are always tons of bots getting stuck in choke points, and the PP can reach out and touch them all in the most democratically appropriate way.
你再用你的大屁屁去到处乱碰，你晚上就去 B 晒的里打地铺。
I know, I'm horrible, I'll stop. But if you need to keep your personal space clear of the enemy, or you like taking anti-tank loadouts, this is the best gun you can pick, no question. I made a whole video on this magnificent weapon and why you should use it. Let's get that pick rate over 3%, Helldivers. My PP deserves it.
看，我警告过你了吧？
Oh no, not the B-shed! Our final marksmanship challenge primary is another one of my favorites, the Smallwart, which is only taken on 1.7% of dives. And that's a shame, since you don't need to aim when you're firing 920 rounds per minute. Just vaguely point in the direction of the enemy's head and lay on the trigger. The Smallwart will do most of the work for you. Once you get it loaded up on attachments, it has basically 0 recoil, and those drum mags mean you can spread just that much more democracy. Hell, you can even fire this thing from the hip to great effect. It has excellent damage with the most recent buffs and can take off the heads of higher priority blues like Alpha Commanders with incredible ease. It shines the most on the bug and squid fronts, but you won't be disappointed if you bring it to face the clankers. Just don't use it on the rapid acquisition mission, since piles of heavy devastators can shrug off its anger without much of a problem. I've already covered this weapon in depth in another video, so check it out if you want all the details. Just remember, it's even stronger now compared to when I first introduced it. Now that the more special Helldivers have toys they can play with without worrying about the burden of aiming, let me address the true connoisseurs in the room. Those Helldivers with a more refined palette for liberation. You won't succumb to panic, and can take the time to aim each bullet with care and precision. These weapons require an artisan's touch to get the most out of them, which is why almost all of them are picked less than 1% of the time against any faction. Let's start off with something robust, precise, the perfect tool for a gentle diver to take to a dinner party. The R63 Diligence. It does not deserve to only be picked 2.3% of the time. So Strider, clue them in as to why they should be using it.
Helldivers, Rangers, be honest with me. Have you ever heard of this ancient mythical technique called aiming? Yeah, I know. Scary. Requires reading, hand-eye coordination, and, well, adult responsibilities. All things we apparently avoid like a Battle Titan's morning breath. And that's exactly why we need to talk about the most criminally underrated rifle in the arsenal, the R63 Diligence. Because somehow, you all unlocked it on page 2 of the free Helldivers Mobilized Warbond, spent your measly 12 medals, and then collectively decided, nah, let me run blindfolded with a pacifier instead. Yes, the fleet uses the pacifier more. So much for why stun something when I can kill it. Hypocrites. I love y'all though. Now, I know some of you instantly deflect with, but Strider, I use the Diligence counter sniper, medium pin, it's amazing. Well, and that's great. If you enjoy worse ammo economy, extra recoil, heavier weapon sway, and doing less total damage, I mean, unless you're consistently landing headshots, that's one thing. But meanwhile, the base R63 Diligence is out here being an absolute workhorse, one-shotting chaff, shredding weak points, and staying laser steady with a predictable recoil bounce that practically begs you to land headshots. Once you get used to the rhythm, tap, reset, tap, popping heads becomes second nature. Against Illuminate, Overseers drop in 5 to 6 hits with their blade of armor. Automaton Devastator heads, clean one-shots. Against Terminids, Warriors lose their heads instantly. Hive and Alpha Commanders follow soon after. Even Bow Spearers cough up their weak points like they're doing dental x-rays for free. I mean, come on. And the ammo economy, chef's kiss. 4 mags per ammo box means you stay topped up longer than most light pin rifles. Plus, your rounds don't suffer as much drag, so your long-range hits slap way harder than an AR trying to cosplay a sniper. But here's the real reason it's underrated. The Diligence asks for control, timing, and pace. The things Helldivers forget exist in the moment an automaton looks in their direction. It rewards calm, steady shooting while the battlefield throws a rave around you. It's not flashy, it won't handhold you with staggers. It just performs consistently, efficiently, beautifully. And that's the thing, every other meta weapon people worship, Eruptor, Plasma Punisher, Purifier, we can go down the list, all of them have learning curves. The Diligence is simply one that nobody bothered to learn. So, if you haven't touched the R63 Diligence since the sway changes, or you're new and scared of guns that don't fire like a garden hose, give it another try. It's stable, reliable, and honestly the best gateway into marksman rifles if you want to elevate your game and thin the crowd before they're breathing down your visor. Now, tell me this, do you use the Diligence? And if not, what excuse are you diving with today, Helldiver? Oh, if this helped you fight for democracy a little smarter, make sure you just subscribe over on my YouTube for more weapon breakdowns, guides, and Super Earth approved takes. And if you want to see the Diligence in action, chaos, clutch moments, and all, follow me on my Twitch for epic democratic live streams. I'm Strider of Valor, and thank you, Commissar Kai, for this opportunity, and we're here to spread managed democracy the right way.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks, Strider. Next, we have one of the most underrated weapons on this list, picked on just 0.3% of dives, the Plasma Accelerator. But this one does kind of make sense. For the majority of the time it's been available to Helldivers, it has been a complete pile of steaming crap. But a while back, Command decided that having a sniper rifle with crazy drag was a suboptimal idea, so they almost completely removed the drag to allow this weapon to earn its classification. Now the Plasma Accelerator, while it could still use a little love, is much more effective. It is a charge mechanic based sniper rifle that fires in 3-round bursts of explosive plasma. It does 250 ballistic damage, meaning it can hit weak points, and 100 explosive damage on each round of the burst. So if you hit all 3, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck, since it also has medium pin on both the explosive and ballistic parts of the damage. Now I know Helldivers are bad at math, so for some perspective, this weapon does 1050 medium pin damage every time you pull the trigger, which is the highest single shot of damage we have access to in our primary slot, if you don't count the eruptor shrapnel. It does have a couple of downsides though. The mag capacity is pretty tiny, since you only get 3 bursts before needing to reload, and it is absolute dog water at dealing with greens due to that charge mechanic and its limited ammo per mag. But these are easy enough weaknesses to cover with a good sidearm for handling chaff and taking siege ready to make the reloads less painful. The Plasma Accelerator does its best work against bots and squids. For bots, it can take out devastators with a single headshot or 2 bursts anywhere else. But that added explosive damage makes it really good at taking on patrols, since the explosion will splash over to the other devastators and knock that breakpoint down from 2 bursts to 1. It'll also one-tap out rocket striders and berserkers. It can even destroy mortars and AA emplacements with a single shot from long range, making it a very effective support sniper rifle on the bot front. On squids, you will need something else to deal with Voteless, since this gun is less effective than the "This is Democracy" emote when it comes to killing them. But it can one-tap Overseers, since its nature as a burst fire weapon nullifies the advantages of their ablative armor. It's extremely handy for swatting down the mosquitoes as well. Hell, it even kills flesh mobs in 4 bursts and can bring down stingrays in 2. It's not great against shields, but it will handle all of the Illuminate elites on its own. The Accelerator really shines when you use it as a sniper rifle, so pair it with your favorite form of AT, a sidearm for chaff, and stratagems that can handle a mix of reds and blues, and suit up in either siege ready or reinforced epaulets for quicker reloads. Give this a try, because this gun is not the worst gun in the game anymore by a large margin. It's actually really effective at its role now. It could do with like a tiny bit more damage, but otherwise I think it's great. Next up, we have another darling of mine, the M90A, which is picked on less than 1% of dives. I do not understand why some people still say this gun is weak. It hits stupidly hard with 605 damage, and its nature as a rounds reload weapon means the small internal magazine doesn't really come into play unless you completely empty the gun. Best I can tell, it also has an inbuilt choke, since the spread on it is much tighter than other shotguns. This tight spread means you do have to aim with the M90A, especially against the bots. If you take a little time to place your shots where the enemy is weakest, this thing absolutely shreds. The only front I would not take it on is the squids, since their ablative armor, massive health pools, and the swarms of former voters just do not play to this gun's strengths. But against the bugs and bots, it's incredible. There's a reason why this is my favorite gun in the game, but if you want to see the full rationale as to why it's my favorite, including why I've made some people very upset with my opinions, go check out this video. Now let's talk about a gun many people consider a candidate for the worst in the game. The SMG-37 Defender, picked in a measly 0.6% of missions. This gun gets a bad rep, because for the longest time it was just a one-handed Liberator with a much slower fire rate. But with some recent love and attention from Command, it's now packing some serious firepower if you're willing to pace yourself and place your shots in those close range engagements. But I haven't used this gun an awful lot, so let me pass the mic to the fleet's favorite Quartermaster.
Thank you, Kai. If you're looking for an underrated democracy dealer, Helldiver, then look no further than the SMG-37 Defender. Often a shiny new cadet's first one-handed primary, this little beaut shows that size really doesn't matter. Boasting 110 damage per shot, light penetration, and the ability to equip 75-round drum mags, the Defender is a demon in the right hands. With an unspoken ease of use, tight handling, and mild recoil, the Defender is the perfect tool for our rookies to practice one-handed democracy allowing them to fire back at an enemy as they tactically advance in a different direction. The prior mentioned drum megs and the timid fire rate make this a gun you can load on Monday and fire all week if you pace yourself right, Helldiver. Perhaps not the best for rapidly escalating situations or swarms of approaching enemies, but an exceptional performer when patience and precision is lethal to the enemies of freedom. Once upon a time I called this a mini Liberator, but now it's coming into its own with the recent SMG damage changes. Oh, I'm so proud. And while the discussion around one-handed weapons tends to drift heavily towards the crossbow, a knight paired with a ballistic shield or directional shield, the Defender stands strong, perhaps even taller than prior mentioned more muscular Primaries. But this Quartermaster can count on my metal hand how many divers I've seen drop with this 12mm freedom thrower. And that will not do. Let's change that. Grab your Defender, your shield of choice, and get carrying those super solid state drives. Now, back to your commissar.
I can't be an expert with every weapon, so I'm glad we could have the Quartermaster show off the Defender's recent glow up. Keep these underrated beauties oiled up and ready for combat. I think they'll be getting more use soon. Alright, let's talk about the Las5 Scythe. Freedom's flashlight clearly has a dedicated core of players that use it, since it is picked 1.6% of the time against all factions consistently. I get it, explosions and bullets are sexier than laser beams, but if you can focus this little light of freedom on weak points, it absolutely shreds. So I understand why it has a Helldiver fan club. Its damage is on the lower side with just 350 DPS and light penetration, but it can set enemies on fire, meaning you can go for those near instant kill headshots, or just shine a million focused lumens on the enemy until they burst into flames. Democracy's las gun is great against all factions, especially if you build around it by taking the gas dog and laser cannon, but it's especially effective on its own against the bots. Bots have, for the most part, very clearly defined weak points, so flashing your high beams at them drops them in a hurry. That flame effect also lets you reposition when they start to get too close, meaning even when you're not firing it, it's still doing damage. It also has a super secret hidden passive that makes all Helldivers in the area 30% more effective. You see, Helldivers are like cats. They have a very short attention span and will go nuts chasing a laser pointer. When you bring the Scythe, you are able to herd your cat divers into shooting the same targets as you, which means everything dies faster. I know people like to pretend that Helldivers isn't a team game, but when you play as a unit, everything dies faster, and I think you have more fun. This fact alone makes the Scythe worth trying out, just to watch your random teammates actually focus their fire for once. But even if you play solo, it's still a great tool for melting the bots down to slag. Wild West, they're coming into town. Alright, ready?
I'm gonna shoot that one.
3, 2,
I got first.
1,
Got that one.
fire!
Draw.
Draw!
Damn!
The AR61 Tenderizer is another hidden gem of a weapon for those that enjoy taking their time to place their shots. But I think the learning curve to make this weapon work at peak performance is why it's only picked in 0.9% of dives. The Tendy has the highest damage of any AR at 105 and 35 rounds in a magazine. The reason it's difficult to use is that it doesn't have enough spare ammo for you to spam it like other ARs, since at base it only has 8 magazines. For context, it has a smaller mag and fewer reserves than the base Liberator, so ammo is a problem. But as a trade-off for having less ammo than other ARs, it is laser accurate. It has basically no recoil, making it kind of like a full auto R63. It just doesn't have quite enough damage to hit that one tap on Devastator heads like the Diligence does. If you pick your shots and pace yourself on ammo, it still puts in a lot of work because 105 damage is nothing to sneeze at. I found it gets the best results against the squids, since you'll want that accuracy for elevated overseers, and its damage is more than enough to take out a voteless with just one bullet to their legs. It can also take out flesh mobs very quickly since you can focus on each weak point and pop it. Plus, it's incredibly good at killing watchers, so you can prevent a lot of reinforcements. You can increase its fire rate to a blistering 850 rounds per minute, it. But if you do this, you really have to watch how long you hold down that trigger, or risk completely running out of ammo. It's an accurate, hard-hitting AR that can put in a lot of work if you treat it well, but I do wish it had a couple more mags and a bit of a faster reload. Our final primary I want to share with y'all today is the AR23C Liberator Concussive, which is taken on only 0.9% emissions. This one I kinda understand why more people don't take it. Most Helldivers, sadly, don't play as a unit. They think and fight for themselves, meaning utility is usually a lower priority than lethality. But if you value the lives of your squad mates like a good Helldiver, then this weapon is way better than the pick rate would suggest. Its damage is kinda low at 75, and its nature as a light pen weapon means you won't be spraying it mindlessly into crowds. But it has two things really going for it. The first is its durable damage, which is significantly higher than every other AR at 35. This means it's actually pretty good at popping Alpha Commander heads and popping Battle Spear butts. That said, you don't pick this weapon to do damage. You pick it to buy you space. It has the same stagger force on each bullet as the M90A does, and has the highest push force in the entire game, including support weapons. It is hands down the best primary or support weapon for keeping the enemy out of your personal bubble. Since we now have access to tools like the hot dog, this has begun to matter a lot more. Against bugs, you can keep the entire tide away from you and your team with minimal effort, especially since it comes standard with a 60-round drum magazine and 8 total mags. The crazy high push force, stagger, and the healthy portion of spare ammo that it carries makes this the best support-oriented primary in the entire game. I know that's not everyone's cup of liberty, but if you want to get through missions smoother and earn the respect of your teammates, give it a try. It's a lot better than most of you think it is. Just pair it with guard dogs and tailor your other tools for killing power. This has been a much longer video than I intended to make, but I learned a lot playing with some of Helldiver's most neglected weapons. I think the biggest takeaway is that not enough of you appreciate shotguns. These weapons are powerful self-defense tools and make the rest of your kits shine just a little bit brighter. Hopefully I've given y'all some new toys to experiment with and enjoy. Thanks again to Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus for sponsoring this video. It's undoubtedly the most fun I've had on a mobile game, so check it out on your superphone and use my code, Commissar Kai, before December 31st to get some free items that are listed in the video description. But until next time, this is Commissar Kai, signing out. Get him!
Here.
Get him! Gary, no! No, Gary, no! No, why are you looking behind us?
No.
God damn it!
Oh my god, you unleashed a monster!
No!
Holy.
No! Gary, Gary, stop!